Good evening and welcome to the Verona Board of Education public meeting. It's March 8th and the meeting is being called to order at 7:05. Please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The reading of the meeting notice. This meeting is being conducted in compliance with the open meeting session that the Verona Board of Education passed a resolution at its annual reorganization meeting held on January 4th, 2020. The meeting set forth the schedule of its regular meetings, which resolution was within 7 days of passage. The schedule was sent to the Verona Cedar Grove Times, the Star Ledger, the Township of Verona, and the VEA. Postings of this meeting setting forth the time, location, and agenda were posted at the Verona Board of Education office and at the Verona Public Schools District website. The Verona Board of Education operates under a consent agenda format. Any board member has the right to have an item pulled to be voted upon or discussed separately. Copies of tonight's agenda and resolutions have been made available to the public and the press. Mr. Cruz, can you please do the roll call for attendance?
Sure. Mr. Walker.
Present.
Mr. Day.
Here.
Mrs. Drappi.
Here.
Mrs. Prisco.
Here.
Mrs. Fresky.
Here.
We have quorum. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And we are going to go right into our superintendent's report. Dr. Fernari.
Thank you, Mrs. Fresky. Good evening, everyone. As you know, today marks the second day of the Verona Public Schools functioning as a mask-optional environment. In my letter dated March 3rd, I was able to clarify several points related to this new development. The most recent Cali report published weekly by the CDC indicates that both the Northeast region, Bergen, Essex, and Hudson counties, and the Southeast region, Atlantic, Cape May, and Cumberland counties of the state, are at a low rate of transmission. This is very encouraging news, although we continue to keep a close watch on new developments. One topic that was not included in my letter is the potential ramification of travel for the schools with regard to quarantine and isolation requirements. This is because the CDC and the New Jersey Department of Health have published differing guidelines on travel. For now, the Department of Health advises that we follow the previously released quarantine and isolation guidelines related to travel. Once we have additional information to share, I will update our school community. I have heard from principals, teachers, and parents about the smiles on children's faces over the last 2 days. I want to publicly thank the entire administrative team and all of our staff who are working so hard to prepare our schools for the students' return on Monday, March 7th. During one of the more recent Community Relations Committee meetings, reports actually, it was shared that the district will be releasing a winter newsletter. I'm happy to report that Verona School Notes will be released this week to our school community. The newsletter includes articles contributed by all of our schools and several departments at the district level. Verona School Notes is intended to celebrate happenings in our schools and to inform readers about upcoming activities and events. This newsletter will be followed by an issue of our Verona magazine in June 2022. As an update to our work to identify a consultant to conduct an audit of our current HR practices and gather data on climate and culture as they relate to diversity, equity, and inclusion, I first want to make it clear that as per our RFP, the services that a consultant are being asked to deliver do not include driving curriculum or going into classrooms to interact with students. The work is intended to provide us with a snapshot of where we are and to assist us with strategizing next steps in an informed manner. I have continually said that this work is intended to ensure that all of our students feel valued in a learning environment where they feel a sense of belonging based on dignity and respect. Under no circumstances will we deviate from that objective. Our purpose is to ensure that our practices, policies, professional development, and resources all support our ability to attain that goal. With that in mind, we have reassessed the matter based on the issue raised at our last meeting. We've spoken with the lead representative from Grand River Solutions several times, and we have been assured that the firm can complete all of the tasks we requested with a restructured team that does not include the individual whose messaging was so misaligned with our district's core values. Therefore, I am prepared to make a recommendation to accept Grand River Solutions' proposal for those specific tasks at our meeting that will be held on March 22nd. Additionally, I have spoken with Chief Kiernan about the matter and about DEI in general, and we are looking forward to the district and the Verona Police Department collaborating on future joint projects related to this initiative. Finally, just a reminder that VMAX Family Night is this Thursday evening, and I hope that everyone here in town takes advantage of that wonderful event. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Fenori. Does anybody have any questions or comments?
I just want to chime in regarding the masks. So finally I can talk because I don't have a mask on, and it's nice to see everybody's smiling faces here and there. But I was on a trip and I came back Sunday night. I was tired and I get up in the morning, I'm walking my dog and I hear this scream across the street, "Missed your day, missed your day." I'm like, and it's my neighbor's kids and they're like, "Today we're not wearing a mask." I'm like, they were so happy. So, and then later I saw them that day. I'm like, "How was it?" They're like, "It was great." So, but I just want to say that I'm so happy that we're close to normal, as close as we can be, and, having masks optional, people can still wear the masks, or if they don't want to wear the mask, they don't have to. But from the parents and from the students I've talked to and my neighbors, it's been a great thing. So glad to be sort of normal, even though I went to the airport and I had to wear my mask. I went on the plane, I had to wear a mask, and I went to the doctor's office yesterday and had to wear my mask. But then you can go to school and restaurants and everything else and not wear masks. So go figure.
Yeah,
Now I talk more when I wear a mask, eh?
I have two questions about two different topics. If the first question stems, a certain debate, I could hold off for the second question. The first question is, so now that the one employee who did make posts that I think a reasonable person would think were a little bit egregious, now that she's not going to be working with Verona, I guess the question is, why aren't we voting about this tonight?
I didn't hear the last part of that. I'm
So
sorry.
why aren't we voting on this agenda item tonight? Because I think a lot of us thought this was something that was going to happen on this particular agenda. So if you could, explain to the community the rationale.
So I think that the best answer to that, Mr. Walker, is that we wanted to make sure we did our due diligence. We had conversations not only amongst ourselves, but also with the representative of the firm several times. I also wanted to make a point to have a concerted effort to have a conversation with Chief Kiernan, because the Verona Police Department is one of our most valued partners, and we would never want to jeopardize that relationship. And he and I are going to have ongoing conversations, as a matter of fact, to see what kind of joint, as I mentioned in the report, some joint activities that we can do as a community. I'm also a member of the, and can't wait to attend my first meeting of the Verona Multicultural and Accessibility Committee. And that's going to be on the 23rd of March. So really making sure that we are engaging in the right conversations and that we're doing it not in isolated instances, but that we're all connected was really important to us.
Thank you. I have one follow-up question on that front. So just to make sure we're all on the same page, this company's service will be to provide a set of recommendations to the district, but none of these recommendations are binding. And I think Sarah kind of confirmed with her follow-up question last week that no one that doesn't want to be part of any, no student that doesn't want to be part of any of these focus groups or whatever other surveys or anything that may or may not happen, no one will be forced to be part of that. Is that accurate?
Correct.
Thank you.
Mrs. Drappi, you have something?
I just want to say thank you again for just echoing Jim. Masks are off. I know my kids are really happy. I'm really glad that I can finally understand what Jim is saying. And I would like to also thank my daughter's teachers, because I know they worked really, really hard to sort of shift the classrooms back to as normal as possible. And my first grader could not believe that she was allowed to be in a group. I couldn't believe it either, I'm not gonna lie, because I don't know if that's the best case scenario for all the kids in the classroom, but and that they're back in the cafeteria. That was really, really important. And I've been hearing some wonderful conversations from parents saying how happy their kids are to be back in the cafeteria. I thank you, Mr. Walker, for asking those questions because those are the questions that I had. And thank you, Dr. Fernari, for shedding some light and giving some clarification to what may be coming up. Thank you.
Dr. Fernari, oh, sorry, were you going to speak?
No, I was just going to say if anybody had any other
You had
questions.
mentioned the Cali report and out-of-state travel. You know, our kids did miss a lot of time, and if a kid's traveling either to a different state or to a different country, we know the kid didn't take his or her credit card out and then pay for that plane ticket, right? And it's very possible that a child may travel to a different state or a different country where they're actually less likely to contract COVID than they would be if they were just hanging out in Verona for that same period of time. So I know that, you know, the recommendations by the NJDOH and the CDC are important. I just ask that we look to make, you know, sensible decisions so that we're not taking kids out of classes even more than they already have been taken out.
Yeah, you know, and it's interesting because I've been, you know, this has been our lives as administrators and teachers for so long, and parents too, that, you know, we look at those reports and we try to interpret, am I going somewhere where, you know, there's a different scenario, a different picture than where I am now? And what does that look like reentry? I mean, Mr. Day, you were mentioning that you had to wear the mask on the plane. And, you know, I've been to events recently where I've had to show my vaccination card. And, you know, we're not doing any of that necessarily to have students come to school every day. What we're trying to do now is to, especially because we're in a state of low transmission where we are, we're trying to function in a way that takes all of that into consideration, but we understand that for the most part, we're in a place that is far different from one that we've been in the last 2 years. You know, we haven't been in green, or for lack of a better way to phrase it, for months and months and months. So, you know, we do have to take all of that into consideration.
Thank you. Thank you.
Hi, I just want to say, Dr. Fernari, thank you very much for reaching out to Chief and speaking with him, because I do feel that working with our police department, they do so much for our community
Absolutely.
and for our school district, and they play a very important role to our students. And for our students to have the respect for our law enforcement is very important. So thank you so much for having those conversations with Chief.
Certainly. Thank you.
And I know I'm talking a lot right now, but I know that when we do have this on an agenda, Mr. Cruz, I do want us to pull it out from the consent agenda so that we can all discuss it and then vote, you know, just on that agenda item next week or whenever the next board meeting is.
Yeah, I think that was understood between our conversations, that it's absolutely a separate vote. Were there any other questions or comments? Okay, so
One other thing to add regarding Chief Kiernan, I believe that they have some kind of training that they go through, and potentially we could piggyback off that with some of our staff, or those kind of conversations you're going to be having with him.
Yeah. One of the things that we talked about was how to share those types of trainings, that whether it's the police department's training, our trainings, that we can do some messaging together. So Chief Kiernan and I have promised each other a coffee meeting, and we'll get together and talk about those things, and I'll share more as I know more.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
great, thank you.
If you
Dr.
could ask
Bernard.
their opinion on a Zoom style board meeting, I'd very much love to hear it. Thank you.
Oh, I'm so tired of Zoom meetings.
We're going to roll into our committee reports, and we have education. And that's Mrs. Jaffe and Mr. Walker. Mrs. Jaffe?
Yes, sorry. It was quite a long meeting. There's many updates. We had some great conversation. Okay, bear with me. Curriculum Council meets next Wednesday, March 23rd. They're going to work on elementary report cards and math growth and Edmonton and curriculum revisions. Visual arts revisions with the elementary, middle, and high school teachers have begun, and it will continue over the next few days and then finally completed in the summer. Music revisions have begun with Mr. Freund and Dr. Miller as well. And social studies 7. So this was sort of the big change in terms of curriculum. For 7th grade social studies, they're going to change it. Right now, you're taking a cycle class as civics in 7th grade, and they're changing that to an entire semester's worth of work. And then they're adding in a new elective, which is so cool, called Global Storytelling, Gods, Superheroes, and Monsters. Really looking at folklore and storytelling and mythology, looking at Greek, Norse, myths of Aztec, Maya, and the Olmecs, African mythology, stories of Asia, spirituality in Oceania, and then shared myths. And do like an inquiry-based project as the final culminating project. Just based on like what kids are reading these days, it really fits in well with that. The 6 subcommittees will be meeting in the near future. Dr. Miller will release more information soon about that for DEI. Ms. Kober, who is our math coach under the ARP ESSER grant, is starting with grade 1 students at Brookdale and Lanning, I believe this week. These students have been identified for the math lab based on recent in-class unit assessments and data collected through the map growth assessments. And then also teacher recommendations. It's going to be twice weekly after school during a 6-week session. Once that's complete, she'll move over to FM Brown and Forest. Elementary teachers, principal supervisors are finishing and revising ELA report cards. Math revisions began last Friday during professional development, and then we'll continue on in the next months. Map growth assessments in math and reading were administered in February for elementary and HBW, and those reports either should have gone out or will be going out very, very soon. We are currently reviewing potential elementary curriculum social studies programs, and Mrs. Peter and the elementary principals and 9 elementary teachers are exploring several different social studies programs to be implemented starting next year. We have an updated calendar, and that stems from the NJGPA, the New Jersey Graduation Proficiency Assessment, that will be administered to grade 11. And then therefore we had to move our NJSLA assessment schedule. And that letter should have gone out for the NJGPA, should have gone out March 3rd. So if you haven't gotten it yet, blame the post office. And I'm just trying to see what's left. We have interactive writing for PD with Ms. Clark and Ms. Peter. Also looking at argumentative writing and then how to provide feedback. That's all part under professional development. Staff mentoring meeting is March 24th. And during professional development on March 4th. Teachers were working on elementary report card revisions, curriculum revisions, LGBTQ+ training at HBW, and then NJGPA, NJSLA training at VHS, and then NJSLA training for elementary teachers will be coming up the first week of April. Math Parent Night was a huge success. Grades 1 and 2. There was over 80 parents in attendance. If you've never had the opportunity to attend one of these, the next time we offer one, please do. It is really eye-opening. The way that kids are taught math is very, very, very different than the way we have learned. And it really is very helpful to be able to look at the manipulatives, use the manipulatives, and understand the new style of teaching. And let's see, Dr. Goebel's coming to work with our world language teachers, and that is March 18th. And still working on the CRDC reports, but the date of completion is extended to March 11th, and it looks like we'll meet that deadline. And then I already spoke about the calendar, and that looks like that's it for that report. I told you it was a lot. I apologize.
Could I add on, Sarah?
Yes, please jump in, Mr.
Yes,
Waka.
so Just to re-clarify something, I love the fact that we had 80 parents at that meeting, but we actually only had 20 parents at the meeting, and we had 60 parents log on from Zoom from home and be able to communicate in real time from home. So I think that's something that is a service that we should continue to look at more levels, especially the board level. I also think it's great that we're looking to push the classics into the middle school. I think that, when you look at the AP tests or when you look at SAT or PSATs, the classics come up again and again and again. So if we expose our kids to that early, I think it's great. And my recommendation was that we have about 7 teachers that volunteered for this. I just asked that I asked at the meeting that we consider, even if it's an incredibly small stipend, I think we want to show a token of appreciation to the people that are, going above and beyond their contracted hours to help put this together. So I think that kind of culture would go a long way, even if it was a very, very small stipend. Thank you.
Agreed, Mr. Walker. Thank you. Access ELLs has started. There is a CPAC meeting March 7th and was March 7th. The parent presentation from 4th graders going to 5th graders, students who are in our special services. That was March 2nd. And I think that's it. Oh, our bus. So we reported out at the last meeting, or maybe it was the meeting before that. I can't remember now. That we are purchasing a large bus and a small bus. The small bus was pushed back to June. Is that the big bus was pushed back to June? And that's because of supply issues. And then, did you want me to report on the other thing? Yeah, that ties into that. And we are also in the process of applying for a grant for an electric bus. Now, the grant process can take a long time, and then the acquisition of an electric bus can take even longer once we do acquire the grant or acquire the funds. Mr. Cruz is in the process of putting together some information about that to put out to the community regarding this grant, because it does require letters from the community, letters of approval or appreciation. I'm not really sure the right word to use for that. I'm sorry, endorsement. Thank you. Yes, letters of endorsement. And so that way, if community members, if this is something that they are looking for, then that is definitely something that, meaning if they're looking for us to acquire an electric bus, they should be on the lookout for this information coming from Mr. Cruz in the near future and ways for them to take part in that. And again, just a reminder, May 14th, Civic Center is the wellness fair. And I am done with the ed report.
I just had a question for Mr. Cruz regarding, are you going to send an email out saying, here's the link or an email address to send the endorsement?
So yeah, so I think we could definitely share that, and I could just put a small blurb and send that out to everyone. So the grant application was submitted on Friday. So we're in there, and having the community send out a letter or even an email to the New Jersey Department of Environmental Protection. It's just a way to kind of like seal that grant application and make it even more favorable, because then they'll see that the community is really in big support of it, especially since a lot more school districts are, battling for the grant and wanting it. We're just asking for one bus right now. And it's going to be a huge piece for us, especially as we move into, being looking for sustainability and also looking at the benefits of how that affects our health and the reality of where we are today with climate change.
I have a question about the grant. So if we are approved, that grant, does that expire? Do we have to use it by a certain date, or when would we see those funds?
So the way that the grant works is as soon as we get approval, the two things happen. Thomas Built Bus is actually the bus builder. It's going to take at least a year for that bus to be built. The other piece is the infrastructure. So we will have to install a level 2 charging station in our bus yard. So that's the other piece. The grant does cover the infrastructure upgrades, the cost that to have an electrician come in and install it, and even PSENG to kind of like do the electrical upgrades as well. So it does cover all those costs, and in addition, what the grant does cover is not the cost for the entire bus, but the difference. So if currently it costs about $100,000 to purchase a brand new large bus. So if the electric bus is 400,000, then the grant will pick up the difference, which is the 300.
Nice.
Another quick, oh, sorry, go ahead, Jim.
I just said nice.
Oh.
I said, I like that. Very
Yeah.
good.
And then going back to your question, whether it expires, we will have like a definitive window. But I'm pretty sure that they have some flexibility, especially with supply chain issues and the manufacturer being able to build and deliver. So
In regards to the charging station, so our bus yard is not on school property, correct?
correct.
So is that maybe a shared service that we could go into with a neighboring town who also uses that bus yard, who is looking to purchase to sort of offset some of that cost, or no?
So right now, our bus yard is actually on township property. So the one thing is that the utility in that shared yard it belongs to the Board of Ed. So the electrical that's in there and that barn, it's actually a meter that we have service to. So we're responsible for that. So I guess as long as the installation is done, technically the installation is going to be done on a container that we have on that property where that meter is. That container does belong to the board.
So reasonably speaking, that could also be a source of revenue. Because if other towns then purchase an electric bus and they want to charge at our
charge there.
station.
Yes,
Yeah.
so there is an opportunity to do the share service and have them charge on our yard. Yeah.
At the end of the day, like we could fill out the grant where we're not obligated to move forward with the purchase. So we could, see, I think it's very, very, very wise to do the paperwork now. And then we can kind of do the nuts and bolts once we kind of see what the grant is. Because I got awarded $400,000 originally. Then last week it got taken down to $250,000. So there's things changed in this weird, which is very disappointing. But I think it's a really wise idea to move forward with at least the grant part.
Yeah. Thank you.
I was going to add, as far as getting endorsements and getting community members to email, we might be able to share that with Ms. Pearson, who was the Environmental Commission, who was here last week. And I know Mr. Stephen Neal was very instrumental in getting other charging stations. So he's very pro electric vehicles in town. So maybe sharing this with the town council might get that out, the message out to the public as well.
Perfect. Yeah. And I think based on my conversation with the bus manufacturer with the grant, since they were heavily involved in the grant process, that is kind of like where he was getting at. It's maybe having, if there is actually a community organization, a committee that's already involved in sustainability, just having their voice as a collective organization to really endorse the grant and kind of like show their support of it in order to get this approved for Verona Board of Ed. Yeah.
Get this new bus, we can park the bus right in the town circle and use that one charging station and just show off our bus. But then we might have to share with other people too, but yeah.
Next committee meeting was facilities, buildings and grounds.
That's
I
you
know
and me.
that-
How
that
about
was-
I'll do the first three and you can do the final part that I
Yeah,
had to leave for.
okay.
So for building grounds, we went with Mr. Higgins and we talked about a few things. One's regarding HVAC. So for the spring break, we're going to be doing the testing of HVAC. So we're all ready to rock and roll. Our folks have been trained, so we're very excited to be able to do a test when the weather's a little warmer. So again, we're ready to move forward with that. Legacy is on call in case there's any issues, any problems, but they've been great getting this project moving forward and closing it all out. The next item we talked about was FM Brown sidewalk on the left-hand side. It's very well-used sidewalk. It's where when we bring in before and after care, I believe, goes in and out of there. I use that entrance many times. And there's also some air conditioning work over there. So they're going to try to look at ways to improve that sidewalk. I think it's getting covered by, dirt and things, and maybe look at doing an in-house plan of a retaining wall, and work on ways to improve that particular sidewalk. Another item that we talked about, we don't have any resolution on this yet, but this came from a couple parents in regarding the high school and the pickup on Sampson. There's been some challenges where when folks are being picked up, people are parking on both sides of the road, and there's kids crossing and things like that. And sometimes you have a lot of novice drivers who are pulling out of the parking lot when there's hard to see with cars on both sides of the road and students walking. So we're trying to figure out, maybe work with the town, talk to the police about options on how to maybe have everybody park on one side of the road, maybe the left side and not on the right side. So it makes it a little easier for people to come in and out of the high school. So that was just something that we had talked about. It came up during the week, and I brought it up to the committee, and we had a little bit of discussion. And
Can I ask a question?
so
Jim?
that'll be a next step.
Oh, I'm sorry, Jim. Can I ask a question real quick? So when you say sidewalk for FN, do you mean like not actually the sidewalk in front of the school, like the thing that goes down on the left?
FM Brown?
Yeah,
It's on the left-hand side. So when
Yeah,
you go
right,
down
'cause
the
it-
corner, it's
perfect.
down at side entrance.
yeah, that looks a little beat up. So I think
Yeah,
that'd be
it
a
is.
very,
It's-
very
it's
good
just-
idea.
and they had done some air conditioning work there, so they're trying to figure out how to, improve that, but also because of the way the ground's set up, that you get water that rolls in there and sits there and brings some dirt down. So we're trying to put a retaining wall. You, Chris. Mr. Walker, we're here to please you.
If that's the case, these meetings will be a lot of fun.
It'll be a long list.
And at that point in the meeting, Jim had to leave. So the other things that we discussed after Jim had to drop off the call was the playground resurfacing at Forest Avenue and Brookdale School. There's some buckling of the flooring, and it's not clear yet whether it's a manufacturing defect or if it was something that was done incorrectly in the installation, or if it's just water runoff from all the snow and rain that we've had this winter. So we're contacting the vendor and the manufacturer to see if it's still under warranty and looking to getting those repairs done as soon as possible. We did look into the signage around the schools in regard to idling. The one at FN Brown and Verona High School don't have signage at all. So we're going to have signs put in there, and HPW sign is just quite faded and done in. So that'll be refreshed and replaced. And there was outdoor classrooms and covered seating, but I can't remember exactly what we said. I didn't take good notes on that.
Okay.
You want to?
So based on the fact that we had so many days where our students were eating outside, having snack outside, and it was COVID related, but it got us to thinking about the potential for creating outdoor classroom space with covered seating at our schools. So Mr. Cruz and I were looking into, along with Mr. Higgins, we're looking into what that might cost and putting something like that in our long-range facilities plan for future consideration. It would give our teachers the opportunity to take their children outside and have a place that would afford them the ability to actually teach a lesson out there, whether it be a science lesson or having children read, or, so many possibilities. Study the environment while they're outside. So we were thinking that, as a future plan, that might be something that we should include in our long-range facilities plan.
And in terms of long-range facility plans, Mr. Higgins has been spending time with our incoming facilities director, Mr. Nick, and I can't recall his last name. What is it? Naturali. And we had an opportunity to meet him quickly before the meeting tonight. So they've been working together the past 2 weeks. So he will be up to speed on the projects that are going on, what our reserves and maintenance are, and we should have a seamless transition there. So that was it, unless I missed anything.
item, this may be more toward Mr. Cruz. I know we spoke prior to this meeting about the status of the gym floor.
Oh.
And maybe you could just enlighten, the group about that. Not to put you on the spot, but I am.
Yeah, well, it's a good thing you said that. It's written on the side here. So on May 9th, where the floor is going to get repaired, and they could have done it a little sooner, but felt that into May with the warmer weather, that the phys ed classes would be able to be outdoors and we would have more opportunity to get that done. And it was covered, our insurance deductible, it cost us 6,000 out of pocket. It was 5,000 for the insurance deductible, and the $1,000 extra came with some of the plumbing repairs that had to be done that wasn't covered under the insurance. Does that answer you?
That's very good. Yeah, I just wanted to
Excellent.
get that out there. So thank you.
Great, thank you. Thank you for
I
reminding me.
want a nice new complete gym floor soon. Yeah.
And then we also had athletics.
Wait, I'm
Neat.
sorry. I have a quick question.
go ahead.
This is not a replacement, it's a repair.
Repair.
Okay.
Correct.
And thank you, Mrs. Fresky, for filling in for me for that meeting. I was unable to attend.
You are
And
welcome.
thank you, Dr. Fenari, for considering the outdoor spaces, the covered outdoor spaces. I know this is something that parents have been like begging for since the start of this pandemic. And they've talked on end about, we'll do it, we'll figure it out, we'll get it for you. So I'm glad that this is something that we're going to at least consider or try to bring to fruition.
Thank you, Mrs. Jaffe. And next was athletics.
I can take that. So winter sports is wrapped up. Two highlights that I would like to congratulate would be the Verona Glen Ridge hockey team. They made it to the semifinals, which is, I think, one of the furthest they've gone ever in history of the hockey program. They played the #1 seed, Morris Knowles, on March 3rd. Unfortunately, they lost 3-2 in overtime, but congratulations to both those town teams. And then also another big accomplishment goes out to Jaden Chupak. He made it down to Atlantic City for our wrestling team. That's always such a big accomplishment for any of our wrestlers to get down to Atlantic City. So congratulations to him as well. Spring sports is underway as of yesterday. Of course, yesterday was beautiful and today was a little chilly. That's how it goes with spring sports. On February 22nd, there was that fundraiser, Hoops for Hope. It was wonderful attendance, and I believe about $3,000 was raised for that fundraiser. There will be another fundraiser for both the students in our district that are suffering from an illness on April 14th, and that will be a doubleheader softball and baseball game. So more information on that will be coming out as well. Let's see. Also, there will be the 8th graders will be able to take their 8th grade year-end trip to the Poconos, their day trip on June 3rd. So happy to see that they're able to do that again. And I think that is all I have. Did I miss anything, Mrs. Freshy?
The other thing that came up, and it's just really tentative and in discussion mode, was the possible cheer event.
Oh, yes, on May 1st. That's still in discussion.
That's
with-
still in discussion because they need a little
A
bit more
cheer competition.
detail
Mhm.
around that and how many people and capacity. So that's something, and that would also go towards a fundraising event for the students.
Right.
And then I think the last thing, and I'm not sure if it goes under athletics, but the VHS gaming team, the Overwatch, they competed against West Essex. I saw them tweet out and we won that. So this is kind of a new arena for us. And I think it does fall under sporting teams, right? It's
Did we win?
extracurricular. So, excuse
Did
me?
we win?
We did win. We're doing well in it. So there's a little tweet thing if anybody wants to follow it. It's VHS gaming @gaming_VHS. So they're looking to increase their visibility. So that was great news. And I think that was it for athletics. Are there any?
I think, does this fall under athletics extracurriculars? Just to give a huge shout out to the cast and crew
Oh,
of
Footloose.
Footloose.
Awesome.
Okay, quick story. I spent 4 years of my high school career on this stage, and every single show that we ever did here always felt bigger and better. And every year we were like, we can't outdo ourselves. Let's go. And the sets were always bigger and the costumes were always amazing. What I saw Saturday night at their final show, I've never seen a high school production like that in my life. I mean, really, the production value, the set design, the vocals, the choreography, the sound, the lighting. I mean, I'm absolutely blown away. They should be so proud of themselves. I know firsthand how much work that takes. It is every day after school, and that choreography was no joke. And I am not a dancer, so I was doubly impressed. So kudos to them. Congratulations on a wonderful run, and looking forward to what else they can bring to the stage.
Well, thank you. Are there any questions or comments on athletics? If not, we're going to go on to community resources. Mrs. Prisco, you want to take that as well?
I think Dr. Fenari, can you hear me? Because I feel like.
Yeah.
You can? Okay. I believe Dr. Fenari covered a lot of on our, let's just go through. So Grand Rivers was discussed in Dr. Fenari's superintendent report. We had conversations over that, several conversations. And let's see. Let's see, our communications, the website question and answer tab is up under the board page. So that's up and going.
That's, it's been created and we have the beginnings of it. One of the things that we did, because it was, this particular FAQ page is a page for the Board of Education. It's under the Board of Education. So we've already put up a link to a wonderful FAQ about school boards from New Jersey school boards. So that link is if it's not up already, it will be first thing in the morning. And then we're creating the FAQ for our, we're still going to maintain that COVID page. And there were a number of things that, we wanted to make sure people had a place to go if there were still questions. So that's being crafted now. That should be up either tomorrow or the day after.
Great, thank you. Also, I know Dr. Fenari attended FM Brown and Forest Avenue to read Across America. I also had the pleasure of going to FN Brown to read to the first grade class at Mrs. Starenka, and that was just a wonderful experience to be back in the classroom, to see those smiling faces. Well, they still had their masks on last week, but you could still see they were smiling from their eyes. So that was also great. Also, I know other administrators and believe town council members, and as well as our police department, also went into the classrooms to read to the students. So thank you to everyone who did that. And as Dr. Fenari mentioned, she will be attending March 23rd, the Verona, MIAAC meeting with the town. And I think that was all.
Oh, you covered it all. I do want to go back a second. I was all over the place with my notes. Did we talk about the pay to play for athletics? So was it last meeting? Okay, because I just see a note and I don't have a date by it. Okay, so one of the things that we did talk about in this meeting was trying to get consistency around when a new sport is introduced. We've kind of been all over the map in length of time before it's actually absorbed by the board. So it is a process, and we're looking at writing regulation to be consistent with that process, because once there is the interest and we have feeder programs and students are coming up, we don't want that burden to be on the parents for a long term. Like sometimes it just needs it to get it going and then come up with a consistent plan to fold those groups in.
I think that's perfectly sensible. Yep.
Excellent.
One other item off too that we discussed was the documents that we received regarding the HBW auditorium. We're looking at our policies and all that. So that's still in discussion item as well, right?
Perfect. Okay, if there are any other comments or questions in regards to community
I
resources.
just wanted to piggyback real quick in regards to, I know last meeting, Mr. Waka took got to mention the sports that we are going to be funding now, you got all the credit, right? But I was involved back when we were making decisions about, when we were approached by parents about field hockey. And we had agreed to do that as pay to play, to see how it went, because we hadn't had a field hockey program here for years. And it became very successful and it's been great, right? And I think we've expanded it since then. Also a year, I think after that, some parents approached us about swimming. And the board at that point agreed to move forward with pay to play on that. So, and that was a program, took a little longer to evolve and seems to be growing and it's great. So I guess end of the day is we're trying to find activities that the students and that enjoy and love and want to go out there, and any sports and activities after school, along with the academics is great, right? So we want to find ways to promote the children. So I was glad, because we had a few extra dollars, we were able to work through the finance committee to be able to fund that. So I just wanted to do a shout out to Mr. Cruz to be able to sort that out with the finance team. And again, it was a group effort really from starting with the parents to the administration and board, and now we're continuing to move forward with that. So I just wanted to say that the process worked, where we started some new sports, we got the interaction from the parents and the students, it grew, and now we're able to fund it as a part of our program. So.
Mr. Day.
I'm
Go
sorry, I
ahead.
just wanted to also piggyback off of the FAQ pages that are going to be on the board. I know, I'm sorry, everybody's talking. I think that that's wonderful. I think that increases transparency, that provides the public with answers that they may need, more immediate than, say, an email can get back to them. I think along with that is also the roles and responsibilities presentation that's also on the board page. And I think, we're lucky to have an incredibly engaged public. I don't think that every town has that. And I think it's important for the board to also remind themselves, as well as the public, to really understand this sort of the structure of the meeting and the reasons behind our public meetings, and that they're in front of the public, not with the public. And I think it could be really informative, and I think it would help people understand how the meeting is structured and why it's structured that way. But that goes right along with that FAQ page. They're in the same area of our website.
That vein, Ms. Peterson from New Jersey School Boards will be at our next meeting on March 22nd. There's mandatory training that we have to do. So, and it's going to be in regards to roles and responsibilities and ethics. So she will be reviewing all that for a public meeting.
I also want to bring up that this is not to say that things have been uncivil. After the meeting, I walk right out the front door, and these are our friends and our neighbors. Even if we disagree on things, it's still, we're still Verona. So I think it's good to I guess provide that information, but I haven't really felt at all that I haven't really seen uncivility at all. So I just want to make sure we stress that it's not for actions in the past, but it's something that we just want to inform the public of.
Okay, and at this point, we're going to open up to public comments on action items. So anything that's being voted upon as a resolution, if you have a comment about that, you could approach the podium. And can you please just let us know which resolution that you're going to be speaking towards? And your name and address, please.
Well, I'll have to go to them as I don't have them all marked down, but I have a couple of them. Yep,
Action items, okay.
George Kozacek, Verona, New Jersey. So on resolution number 2.2. There's a resignation from 2 different teachers there. My question is, one of these teachers resigned for inappropriate behavior. I'd like to know who is responsible for vetting our teachers or any DEI people or anybody that comes to Verona. This has happened quite too often, that we have people who aren't vetted properly. And I could be wrong. My vetting of this person could be wrong, could be, but I want someone to tell me that it's wrong. The HIB readings. I'm not really, I don't know what first and second readings mean. Could somebody just tell me real quick? I don't want you to answer all my questions, but just what's first and second reading mean?
So each time when a HIB report is triggered, the board will get, there's an investigation done and the board will get notified of it. And that is the first reading, which is on one agenda. And then the following week, it gets a second review.
Review. Okay, that's what I thought. I just wanted to make sure. Okay, I went back, I don't know, 6-7 years looking at the HIB readings, and I see that none of them have changed. I don't know what they all are. I don't know what they're for, but as far as whatever's going on throughout the years of putting together bullying things and whatnot, it seems like you still have the same amount of HIB reports from 6 years ago to now. So I'd like to know, you know, is this working or is it not working?
Could just jump in. Just because we see a report doesn't mean that it was found to be a violation of HIB.
Oh, no, I know.
All right, very good. Okay.
Nope, nope, I know. It could be not, it could be just somebody saying something, but it's still the same amount, however it is. If there wasn't anything going on, you wouldn't be seeing anything, right? So obviously something is still going on. And that means that it doesn't look like it's going forward. That's what I'm saying. It doesn't look like it's going forward. Okay, and
That's
then
Mr. Kozaczek, that's your 3 minutes?
you get 3 minutes each one, right?
No, your total time at the podium is 3 minutes.
No. How could I go to each resolution I'm talking about or each item with 3 minutes? That doesn't,
That's the total time.
no, come on.
Yes, thank you.
The Summit Healthcare, number 8 and number 9, just last one. All I'm asking is there a program with that, just like the town
Mr.
has
Kozaczek,
with Montclair,
Your time is up, sir.
as
thank you.
far as the Montclair Health Department that we pay $100,000 for Verona services? I was just wondering if that also can be helped here also.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Are there other comments on resolution items to be voted upon? That's, you used your 3 minutes. Thank you. Right, so with that. Can you come to the podium? It's not an action item, so you could hold that to the end. Thank you.
If it's okay if I call you George, I'll find out the answer to number 8. I have a feeling that it might just be based on the individual need of the child that may be ill or what's in the child's IEP. But at the next meeting, I'll find out.
Yeah, I don't know, $400,000. I don't know if we pay that for. But I was hoping that we get shared services.
Okay. We're going to close public items on public comment on agenda items and move on to, are there any discussion items, new or old business?
I just got a very positive one. My wife and I, we went to this high school today to sign my son up for electives. And there was 2 kids that did an amazing job. They were high school juniors that gave us a tour of the whole. I want to say I need a new microphone. But I just want to say thank you to Chris and Vicky for doing such a great job.
Mrs. Freshy, I just would like to congratulate on their retirements. Mr. Cashel, the math
Yes.
teacher here at the high school, on his retirement, and also Mrs. J, the art teacher at FM Brown. My children had her, and
She's amazing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so congratulations to both of them on their retirement. That's, I think all I had on my,
Great, thank you. At this point, I need a motion to approve resolutions number 1 through 15.
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Day,
second.
second by Mrs. Prisco. Is there any discussion on any of the items?
I wanted to, I guess, one real quick on resolution 14, I wanted to thank the Chirico family for their donation. So I just wanted to do a shout out to them.
I want to confess that I idled the other day, but I'll make sure I try to be a better citizen and not do that again. For the idling one, when I dropped my son off the other day, it was cold out and I idled. So I need to make sure that I'm a better, more mindful of that. But I did idle and
You're one of those idlers, huh?
it
Yeah.
felt good, but I won't do that.
And Mr. Cruz, can you do a roll call?
Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mrs. Drappi,
Yes.
Mrs. Prisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Fresky.
Yes.
We have quorum. Thank you.
Okay, and we do have addendum items.
pass.
I need a motion to accept addenda items, addenda resolutions number 1 through 5.
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Drappi,
Second.
second by Mr. Day.
Second.
I didn't see who did it. And are there any discussions on 1 through 5? If no, Mr. Cruz, can you do the roll call?
Yes. Mr. Walker,
Yes.
Mr. Day,
Yes.
Mrs. Drappi,
Yes.
Mrs. Prisco,
Yes.
Mrs. Fresky.
Yes.
We have quorum. Motion passed. Thank you.
Excellent, thank you. And at this point, we are open to public comments on any topics. And if anybody has something, please state your name and address at the podium, and there's a 3-minute limit per person. Thank you.
Hi, Maria Squilanti, 6 Belclair. My comments are regarding DIE. I sent you guys a lengthy letter, so I won't go over that. But, just for the record, my initial statement still stands. I don't think we need this here. I don't think we can afford it, especially after the pandemic-related learning slowdown that we've had. I think we can do this internally, and we should do this internally like other districts do. And I don't think we have a final objective. But I like to see the direction that we went today, and I'm happy to hear about police involvement and other changes. Regarding Grand River, I think that it is jumping the gun to go with this firm. I have 3 very important concerns. One is, who is the new contact? Have they been vetted? What are their credentials? What is their experience? Because from what we saw, the lady that spoke last time was going to be our point of contact. The second concern I have is location. We asked them how they would service a client in New Jersey from California. That's not clear. They didn't clarify it. And I don't think this is something that we can do remotely unless you guys think that that's okay. And then credibility. A firm who would hire somebody who would post these kinds of statements and say these kinds of vile things about other people. That's something we have to think about. And then my final remark is regarding the RFP. I don't think it's valid anymore. I think it needs to be updated. I think it needs to reflect all the changes that we're discussing here today, that you're discussing, and what our town needs. I think it needs to be more clear. I think it needs to be specific. I think if we're going to spend $40,000 for a district this small, we should know exactly what we're getting into. And we should know exactly how we're going to quantify it and how we're going to explain this to taxpayers, particularly taxpayers who aren't parents. Because I think they are stakeholders that are important in this town too. Thank you.
you doing, guys? Derek Chupak, 7 Durrell Street. I like to just say, we're spending $40,000 on people that can't even show up to our meetings in person. I think that's a problem. The other fact of the matter is I don't know if you guys went to Tibisay's page after everything happened. But she deleted 95% of everything she posted. I mean, if she works for Grand River Solutions, it says a lot about them. So how do you hire that company? Okay, it's just like a criminal deleting, destroying evidence. And I'm sure they went through all their other employees and said, if you got anything on your social media, either cancel your page or delete those posts because they're going to be found. At this point, one person discredits the whole company. You're going to have to find somebody else. That's all I got to say.
Thank you for your comments.
So quick
And
question. So we kept hearing this 40,000. Isn't the cap on this 20?
The cap on it is 25,000. That's
Okay,
in the
very good.
proposal, correct?
We're including the money towards the committee.
Oh, to the stipends.
When you do all that, yeah, that actually meant,
I think the stipends. Yep. And I see somebody else coming up.
Donna Ciccolini, 14 Windermere Road. I just wanted to speak for a second regarding special education services. I have a sophomore at Verona High right now, and I think that the public and the board should know how kind of they compare to the rest of the population in our town. We fight really hard for these kids to get them what they need. And I feel like our students aren't given the resources that they're really entitled to. Like I said, I have a high schooler. There are basically no electives for them to take. And please don't tell me an art class, because if he sits and draws stick figures for one more year, it's just not fair. We need better resources for them to prepare them for when they leave Verona High School. Currently Verona High offers over 30 in AP honors classes. And that's wonderful. And that's wonderful. So those kids can succeed when they go to college and beyond. But how much of that budget goes to our special ed community? Because we have nothing. There's no, everyday living skills, social skills, resume writing, job finding, nothing to prepare them after they leave. Competitive high schools around our area. I know one for a fact offers a class where the kids, they make something collectively, they decide what they're going to make. And then at either the end of the semester or end of the year, they go and they sell it to their peers. Helps them to socialize, teach them how to use money, teach them how to problem solve. These are all the skills that these kids need. Right now, my kid walks to school, he goes to school, learns, gets in the car and comes back. There's nothing. There's no sports. There's no extracurricular. There's no, there's no name, there's no tweets, special needs kids. There's no tweets. There's no Instagram. There's no name on the front of the building, like woohoo, student of the month. There is nothing. And our kids are not nothing. They need something. It's just, at this point, it's just come to the part where it's just not fair anymore. And if maybe it doesn't help my kid, Nicholas has been in the special ed program since his 3rd birthday. And I had such high hopes for him. And once we got to the high school, everything fell through the cracks. And we've talked to the people that we need to talk to, and no one wants to do anything. No one wants to help us. Help us. These kids need a resource elective that they can take that is going to mean something. Like I said, we don't need to draw stick figures in art class and get an A like everybody else. We need something that is going to help them when they walk out of Verona High School. You know, this town spends a lot of money on football fields and baseball fields and anything to do with sports, but they spend least amount of money on special ed. And we probably have a very big budget. We
Ma'am.
probably do pay for a lot of people that
Mayor,
go out of town.
I'm sorry, but your 3 minutes is up.
Okay, anyway, that's it. Please help us. Please listen. That's what we're asking.
Mrs.
If
Chicalini. Yep.
if I could add on. First, thank you for speaking. And I think to tie a lot of the points together, you know, that's the one piece of the DEI that I think we're not talking nearly enough about is the inclusion part. And I'm very hopeful that if this thing does pass, that, you know, a fresh set of eyes or a fresh set of review of the curriculum and the elective offerings and things like that. Because we want to make, at least I believe we all would want to make the experience in all the Verona schools as meaningful as possible for all the kids with any type of disability. And that's the part of this thing that I'm very, very interested in. I'm hopeful that we put a big focus on that when we ultimately get the recommendations back, if this does pass. But thank you very much for your advocacy.
I think we also, last meeting, we reported out as well on, and Dr. Moriello, maybe I'm wrong, maybe it was the meeting before that, but we were discussing the public CPAC meeting. And I know at that meeting, we talked about program initiatives at the middle school in terms of like buddy programs, but also we did talk about looking at electives at the high school in particular and increasing and improving on them for our compromised populations. But I know the rec department also just released, I mean, and again, the rec department is separate from the school system, but the rec department did I know they had canceled the program, the sports programs for students with special needs for the past 2 years because of COVID, but I know they just brought it back this year as well. I don't know if that includes high school students though. So I don't know if anybody knows the answer to that.
I mean, I can't speak to the rec comment because I don't know what's going on with the rec department, but we are doing enhancements to our middle school program and to our high school program for a few electives and adaptive specials and those type of things to enhance the two programs for our students that are most compromised in those settings.
Thank you. And again, to echo Mr. Walker's point, I think, you know, a third-party program review is always valuable because we can always improve, and it does help us see where our gaps are even, and you know, I think we know where they are. We hear from the parents, we're listening to them. And I think those recommendations coming from a third party would be valuable.
Thank you. Mr. Kojusek, can you just please repeat your address?
George Kozacek, Verona, New Jersey. I just want to take the opportunity first and thank Jessica McAvoy for her presentation on the idling. It is a very important health issue. First, this isn't the first, second, or third time we visited this issue. It's been ongoing for 20-something years. And for the board to, let's buy a couple of new signs and put it up, that's not an action plan. What you have here is just a generic plan. This has been going on forever. You're not going to be able to fix it. So you should recognize that now, because nobody is going to give anybody a ticket for pulling in front of the school, waiting for their child in the winter or the summer, keeping their car going. People are going to idle. It's going to happen. You're worried about idling in front of the schools with the kids. What about the homes that are adjacent, 20 feet away? What about the idling that's affecting those people? They're there all the time. Nobody's worried about that. I mean, that's a health issue. What about all those? There's plenty of them next to the school. So what you did, all you did was a knee-jerk reaction. Let's get some signs. You put a couple of sentences together and the problem's going to be fixed. That's not going to happen. You're just nothing. Ticketing didn't work. Verona's not going to go and ticket more people. Let's break the cycle with a true action plan, not words to appease the ear, okay? I urge you to come up with another plan other than what we have now and show that it worked. I've done a uncontrolled study and been to the high school for the past 2 weeks. And it takes at least 3 minutes, over 3 minutes, 20 seconds to drop your kid off and get out of the parking lot. It would be easier if a Verona police officer stood in front of the entrance and let 20 guards go out at once, instead of those 2 idiots that are driving 60 miles an hour on Fairview and doesn't let anybody get out. That would be very helpful. Cedar Grove Police Department, go to all the schools and help them in the morning and in the afternoon. So I urge the police department, if they can help, it would be really great to do this and help this idling issue, or just people getting out of the high school in general. And I say the high school because that's the hardest one. Let's see. Most parents don't know what a drop-off zone means. What is a drop? Actually, I don't know what a drop-off is. Drop-off zone mean get out of your car, take your kid out of the car, and then let them walk up the hill? I don't think so. I think the child should be getting out of the car themselves, but how many of them can get out of a Cadillac Escalade by themselves? They can't. So the 10-second rule, that's not going to happen.
Mr. Kozachek, your time is up.
Okay, real last sentence. Let's not forget the no confidence vote that we had for the BOE, or our BOE's president lack of ethical behavior on social media, and the teachers union view that the VHS high school is not helping our children, or did not help our children.
Thank you.
This is old.
Your time is up.
Did not help our children through the pandemic. That
See,
was stated.
We have a
in the-
rule here. You have to, it's a 3-minute time.
No, no, no.
Yeah.
You have your own rules. That's what you
It's a
have.
board bylaw. It's
I don't
permitted by
care.
law.
I don't care. I'm going to keep talking. You're going to keep talking over me?
Well, I can.
Yeah, you're going to keep talking over me all the time? You
Yes,
know,
it's part of my job.
You're just a nasty guy. There's a way to say you have 3
All right.
minutes, right?
Lisa,
You know,
I'd recommend you close the public portion.
you recommend.
We're going to close public
Please.
portion.
I know, I understand it's frustrating. Please, we have to keep it civil. It's a bylaw. Okay, and I understand. I understand. Okay. Please, excuse me, please. Please stop. Please. Civility. Okay.
Okay, so you changed it so we can't talk. That's what you
At this
did.
point, we're going to adjourn the meeting. Our next meeting is March 22nd, 2022, on a Tuesday. The confidential is at 6 PM. The public portion is at 7 PM. And I need a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Presco, second by Mrs. Drappi, and it's 8:18. I need all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.